Well, we're here in the Wanderlodge, and we took it out for our maiden voyage, which went really well. Filled it up with fuel. Well, we put 100 gallons in it. We didn't really fill it up, but it's close. So it ran really well, drove good, rode good, brakes work good, everything works. So we're real happy with that. We got back home and we decided we were going to try the freshwater system out. So we started putting water in it, and we saw water coming out everywhere. Part of that was there were some drain valves open that we didn't know about, and we figured that out and got those closed. But there are some burst water lines, apparently, that some low-lying areas that were right along the outside wall that weren't really protected very well, and they ended up freezing and bursting. So what we've done is we've gone and bought some PEX, and we've pretty much torn the whole camper apart, took all the panels under the bed out because that's where the water tank and all of the water heater and basically almost all the plumbing is, and then it branches out and comes up both sides, comes up the passenger side to the kitchen sink and the ice maker, and comes up the driver's side to the bathtub, shower, toilet, and bathroom sink. So far, we found that the water lines that run up the passenger side to the kitchen sink have a couple holes in them. So what we're going to do is we're just going to replace those. They're copper, and you're not getting them out. They're anchored to the walls of the camper, and then they have heat tape around them, and then they have an insulation with aluminum, like a foil wrapper around that, and it's all the way back through there. So it's really a lot of work getting them out, and it's really not necessary because we can run PEX right along there, the same area, and it's actually better line. It'll swell and not burst the way the copper did. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to replace that today and then get that all in there. So there are some panels along the base of the wall in the bedroom here that have to be unscrewed from those L brackets, and the screws are pretty tight down in those carpets, so you just slide your putty knife between the wall and that run to find the L bracket, and then you can find the screw in the carpet and pop the screw out. There's another one on this side. There's the driver's side. I've got it loose, and I've pulled it out too. Not sure we're going to need to get in there. Hopefully those water lines hopefully aren't leaking. So we had to take all the panels off the bed, and there's the water tank, fresh water tank. There's the water heater. That white cylinder is the water sanitizer. The blue is an accumulator or a surge tank, and then all the valves, everything in there. There's a Sporlan valve there, and that's what, when you flip on the tank fill switch on the outside compartment, it flips that switch and it pushes the water, lets the water go into the water tank through that bottom there, that white hose that runs into the bottom of the tank. The tank fills from the bottom up, and it'll fill, and then until it comes out the top here, this overflow and run out on the ground. That's how you know your tank's full. It starts running out on the ground through there. And then this here is your water pump, and that's the 12 volt. So whenever you're running off the tank, that's what you use to pump all your water throughout the coach. So when you hook the water up right on the other side of that wall, the water line, the city water, if you don't turn that tank fill switch on, it pressurizes directly into the water lines. So you're using pressure from city water at that point. It goes through the water heater and the sanitizer and the accumulator and all that. and just pumps directly through the lines. So of course we had to take all these drawers out. You can see that little door right there is to the rear furnace. So the rear furnace is in there, and then all these drawers had to come out. This one actually has an inspection hole. I'll turn this light in there where you get to the top of the furnace. And then these drawers, so you can get back in there and you can kind of see what you're doing. And all these lines run through the side there. And it's pretty cool because there's a channel that runs along both sides of the camper. And what that channel's for, it's a metal channel. What that does is when you have a water leak, if you catch it relatively quickly, the water runs along that channel and it runs out between the wall and the floor, runs out on the ground without soaking your carpet and all your plywood, your flooring, and all that stuff. But if it goes unnoticed for a long time, it will flood the camper. So we caught it in time. We didn't get any water in our carpet whatsoever. So that's a good thing. If you look up here, again, there's a drawer that goes under the refrigerator that we took out, so you can get back in there and see as well where all the lines run through. You can see we've got a piece of Bluepex for the cold water ran so far back behind the fridge, and then into this closet. You can see it sticking out there. That's the wheel well hump that you can see there. And there's another panel that screws over the top of all those utility wires too. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop right there, and we're going to take our red for the hot water and take the end of that and shave that down to a wedge, and then duct tape it to the blue up here as close as we can, and try to pull it through with the blue, because we've got plenty. We've still got about 12 feet of blue sticking out from under the kitchen sink. So we're going to duct tape that to there, and hopefully we can just pull the blue through some more and pull the red along with it, and then we'll have both pieces run. And then once we get them out into the bedroom, we'll just untape them and pull them equal length, pull them all the way through, and put our fittings on under the sink, hook them under the sink, and then cut the copper line back in the bedroom and put fittings on there and hook that up there. And then we'll be ready to try the water again. I wanted to give you all a look of some of the stuff that you have to remove in order to do this job. Okay, what you see here is the Moen shower faucet valve. And what we were talking about before is that I had no hot water. So this is a single lever valve, and turned all the way to the left, I had nothing. So in the center, it should be a warm mix, cold and hot. Turn it to the right, gets colder. Turn it to the left, gets warmer. But I wasn't having any hot water. Turn it to the left, it just gradually would trickle down and then it would shut off. So I watched some YouTube videos on it. There's a lot of helpful stuff out there about it. And what I determined was the scald valve, which is also called the pressure balance spool, which is to the right side of the stem, I had an issue with that, and it wouldn't come out. And I watched some videos about how to get it out. I didn't like that because it was destroying it to get it out. So I'm going to show you, well, I can't show you how I did it, but I can, because I have everything out. But what I can do is I can go back and I can point out everything that I did and explain what I did. And that's what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to put it all back together. And it is some really tight quarters in this bathroom shower. So it's a decent sized shower, but when you put a 280 pound 6 foot tall guy in it, and you put a tripod in here with a camera and all kinds of cool tools, it gets a little bit cramped. So what we have here, the first thing we're going to do is explain some things. So this is where the stem goes. That's this guy. So this is a Moen 1225 stem. And what this does, you pull it, if you pull it out, it's out already, but if you pull it out, see that? And I've taken this apart already. You push this out the back and pull it all the way out, and then you put plumber's grease on it, which is what I did, and work it back in there just like that, like so. And what this does is, in is off, pull it out, that's on, and then you turn to the right for cold, turn to the left for hot, center is warm. The hot water line is on the left side, the cold water line is on the right side. So if it turns out that you've got those reversed and your direction that you turn it doesn't match the knob, what the knob says, hot's on the left, cold's on the right, then what you do is you just turn this over. There's a flat on both sides. You turn it 180 degrees, and of course there's a stop that slides on here that stops your knob from turning, and we'll show you that when we put that together. But you just turn it 180 degrees. You take that stop off and you turn this 180 degrees, you put it back on, put the knob back on it, and then your hot and cold will be on the correct side. So you don't have to reverse your lines and all that stuff. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is grease this up a little bit more and pop it in there. And this is plumber's grease. This is plumber's faucet and valve grease. There's lots of different brands of it. Denko makes it. I don't know, there's other brands, I don't know all. I'm not a plumber, so I just figured this stuff out as I go, man. You know, I'm not scared to try just about anything. I hate to pay for anything that I can do myself, so I try to do it all myself, and I usually can figure it out. There's sometimes when I pay people. Usually when I pay people to do stuff, it's because I don't have time to do it. So there's that. Greased up real good. Now we're just going to slide that in there. Kind of work it around. There might be some corrosion in there. that you got to work through. But we have this nifty puller. This is what we use to get it out. And this is a Danco puller. It's a economy grade. You know, the ones the actual real plumbers use is a lot more expensive than this. So these O-rings here, and that's a rubber seal right there. It 2 pieces, wraps around both sides. So these O-rings, you want them to be good and lubed up so they'll slide. And there is some corrosion in there, you know. But what I did to get all this out, back up a little bit, this here was the next to the last thing I took out. The balancing spool or scald valve goes right here. And these holes are for your shutoffs. So you've got this here, this guy here. This is your balancing spool or your scald valve. Now you hear that's how this rattles. You shake it. There's a slide in there, a spool that moves around. That was locked up tight. It was all corroded and locked up. And actually all this was corrosion all around here. And this thing wouldn't come out. You unscrew it. When I would try to put a big screwdriver in here, and I had to get a big screwdriver. I'll show you this. I got my this big screwdriver here. Wide flat tip screwdriver with a lug on it for a wrench. I take the 17mm wrench. That's a 1. Anyway, you put a 17mm wrench on this, you know, you stick this screwdriver in there, you put a wrench on this lug back here, push in real hard here, and then really give it a good pop and it'll come loose. And that's what happened. But as I screwed this out, this was so stuck inside the bore that this would turn and it would take up that slack right there. If you see that slack, it would just screw out and take that slack up, and then this wouldn't come out. So what I did was I popped these shutoffs out. I'll show you what those look like. Put that stopper in the hole so that nothing falls down in there and gets away from me. This is one of your shutoffs. Okay, I cleaned these with CLR. They were pretty corroded. But you see that screw adjustment right there? That's like a needle valve on your carburetor, pretty much. So that screws in, but you got this spring in here, and here is your needle valve. So this has a rubber seal on it, and it's got a taper here. All right. So this slides into that spring, and it slides into there like so. You slide that in there. And if you ever have an issue to where you need to service this, replace this stem, replace a scald valve or whatever, all you do while this is in there is you screw this screw in with a screwdriver all the way, and it pushes this back until it seats, and that rubber seal seals tight into the back of that bore, and it shuts the cold water from coming in. Do the same thing on this side with the hot water. Screw that in, screw both those in tight, and then that shuts off the water to these, so you can take these out and work on them and not have to worry about water spraying out everywhere. So that's a pretty cool deal. What we're going to do is grease this up real good and put it in. But what I did was I popped these out, and then I took this Croyle. It's really cool penetrating oil that I've used for years. This stuff is awesome. It's real expensive. If you look right there, $21 for this can. Believe it or not, I feel like they pack a lot more in this can than you get out of like the other brands, the PB Blaster and all that stuff. Those are bigger cans, but I don't think they have any more in them. Maybe not as much as this. I don't know, because I sprayed and sprayed and sprayed and sprayed, and I know that a lot of times I've sprayed a lot in those other ones, and they run out pretty quick, it seems like. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I'm not trying to slam them. I use all their stuff too. Okay, I do use all of it. But if I got something that I really want to just hit one time and let it penetrate, I usually use this. I don't know if it's any better than those or not. It just feels like it is to me. So, Croyle, look it up. Okay, so what I did was I bent this little nozzle and I put it up in there in that hole that leads into the scald valve, and I squirted. I sprayed a lot of that in there, and then I did the same thing on this side. I turned it over just like so, put it up in that side and sprayed a lot up in there. Just kept soaking it, and then I sprayed some in here to get as much in there as I could. I screwed this out, as this scald valve out, as far as I could, and I put a screwdriver in there, kind of pried it out and squirted that in there, and I let that sit, and I'd work it all around. Next thing you know, the scald valve popped out. I mean, not by itself. I had to put a oops, sorry about that. It's cramped in here. So I had to put a pair of channel locks on it and pull it out, but it came out pretty easy after that. So the first thing I want to do is grease up this shutoff and put it in. I'm gonna lay that down there where I don't lose it. Just since I have this shutoff in my hand. I know I said I was going to do the stem first, but I laid it down and I picked this up, so get what you get. So I got some grease on there, and I'm gonna put this in as an assembly. So I'm gonna lay that on top of the old tub shower shut off or turn on, whatever. You pull that up and it turns it from coming out of the faucet to coming out of the shower. Alright, so now that I have this assembled, you don't want to drop that. Take it from me from experience. I dropped one of these when I took it out the first time. I didn't know how it was made, and there was a little bit of water pressure, and when I pulled the actual shutoff out, that little plunger in the back, the needle valve, the needle valve part of it in the back that shuts off fell down in there, and I had to go fishing for it. And let me tell you, oh Lord was smiling on me, because I had to use this thing, the old mechanical finger, and reach my head in back behind where the toilet goes, and I could barely see something that was green. So I knew that was it because it was kind of corroded, and I reached back in there, and first try I grabbed it. So I barely had a hold of it and just pulled it out of there. So I got really lucky. I found that. You can buy them to replace them, but then you got to run all the way to the parts or the whatever hardware store or whatever, and we don't live real close to it, so it actually costs a lot of money by the time you spend fuel and then the time. And the time's the biggest thing for me. Like I said, I just don't have a lot of time. I mean, I got time, but I have a lot of projects that take up a lot of my time. Screw that in there. You know, I had to go crazy with it. It's got an O-ring on it, right? So just once it stops, just give it a little turn. You're good. And those are screwed at the moment. I'm not sure if they're screwed in or screwed out. I can't remember. Oh, they're out. See there, you just screw that all the way in, and that shuts the water off completely. Which we've done, turned the water off and drained all the pressure off, so that's why you don't see any water here. Now if Nikki wanted to play a trick on me, funny trick, she'd go in there and turn the water pump on and really get me soaked. Okay, now number 2. I mean, I like number 2 like you're thinking. I'm talking about like step number 2. Let's put this other shut off in there. Let's get us some grease on the threads, grease on the O-ring. Yep. Set that on there. Grease up this one. I might be using too much grease, I don't know. All you plumbers out there, you know, you're probably screaming at me, you're using too much grease. So, hold this up there and put it in. Try not to drop it, because your hands are all greasy. Goes into the abyss if you drop it. And I'll grab my ratchet again. Tighten that one up. Again, don't go crazy with it. Just give it a turn. Make sure the shut off is not shut off, not shutter offer. Oh, it's all the way out. So that's good. Next thing, my 3-in-1 oil in there. Next thing is this scald valve, or again, pressure balancing valve. You know, and I sound like I'm really smart, but I read all this. I learned all about this stuff just yesterday. So, and I put my 3-in-1 oil in there. And you all know about this 3-in-1 oil. This is a multi-purpose oil. So, but you know, Miss Nikki's standing behind me, and she's probably one of the only ones that knows this. But there's another oil called 4-in-1. Remember what 4-in-1 oil is? 4-in-1 is 5. Who knew, right? So, very good. All right, so then I just wanted to oil that up. You probably don't have to. You know, hopefully it don't hurt anything. Maybe this grease would have been good just to shove it in there a little bit. I don't know. I don't want to clog them holes up, but I mean, you know, I don't know, man. I'm just figuring this stuff out. I'm right here with you. We're doing it together. It's like that guy on, you remember Mad Max, the first Mad Max movie? Whenever they had that one wreck and Goose was on his motorcycle. And, you know, there's another Goose. There was a Goose before the Goose in Top Gun. And it was called, he was called the Goose. He wasn't just Goose, he was the Goose. And I can't remember his name. But I like him. He's cool. He's actually did a lot of his own stunts and stuff, and a real motorcycle rider and everything. But anyway, they had this big wreck where this guy, for some reason, in like a ranchero pulling a camper, was trying to make a U-turn in the highway in the middle of nowhere, and then the night rider like ran his car through the camper, or I think the police car, the MFP went through there too, and then here come Goose on his motorcycle sliding sideways, and he was laying on the road, and he slid right up to the door, and that guy said, "What happened?" And the Goose said, "I don't know, man, I just got here myself." So that's kind of like me right here. I just got here myself. So you just pop that in there, and grab my big screwdriver. Man, that went in so much easier than it came out. Grab my 17mm wrench. Don't have to go crazy. Got an O-ring on it. Just push in it. Give it a twist. That should be good. Alright. Next, we've got our fancy dancy stem we're putting back in. And I learned, see, because I went to Home Depot last night, Nikki and I did, and we bought a new stem here. And it was in this package, had dust all over it. It's the Moen 1200. And the reason we got this, the reason it caught my eye first is because it had dust all over it. And this camper has dust all over it too. So I thought it's got to be the right one. But it wasn't the right one. The reason I got it, if you look on it, somewhere on here, it says pre-1990. I don't remember where it says it, but it says pre-1990 somewhere on it. I don't know. Maybe it's on the paper inside. But it did say, it said pre-1990 Moen one-handle shower faucets. So it's got to be the right one. Well, it looks totally different. You know, I mean, you can see where this O-ring that runs around here, kind of at an angle, shuts off this one from this one. Does the same thing as that thing does. And it's the same diameter. But this O-ring is what worried me, because this one's all the way out towards the front, and that one is way back here, and there's a hole there behind, which there's a slit there. I don't know, this might have worked. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna do some research before I take that back, because it'd be nice to have it for a spare if I need it, but since we already have it. But I looked it up, and this one is actually called a 1225. This is a 1200. 1225 can still be bought too. So, but it's plastic, and I don't like plastic. I like metal stuff. So let me try to work that in there, in and out a little bit. Try not to tear it up. There is some corrosion back in there still. I'm trying to break it loose. Oh yeah, I can feel it. You don't want to tear your O-ring up, because the O-ring is what does all your sealing. I'm still learning how to use this GoPro. This thing shut off on me a second ago. It said that my SD card wasn't fast enough. It's like a 512 gigabyte SD card. I don't know what that means. I mean, I know it's got a lot of storage. That means a lot of storage, but I don't know what makes it fast. I don't know. I'm just not that smart on technology stuff. So, but I like plumbing. I'm not that smart on plumbing either. They're kind of the same thing, aren't they? Anyway, so I got that cleaned off. I wish I had like I mean, it feels pretty good back in there. Maybe that's just the way it feels putting it back in there, so that those O-rings seal good. But I'm gonna grease it up again. Grease it up again. And we're gonna put it back in there some more. Again, you plumbers out there, don't scream at me. Too much grease. I don't know. I've heard people say you can't have too much grease. I know that's not true, you know, because if you put too much grease on your brake calipers to make them slide good, you could end up having grease on your brake linings, which is a bad thing. Let's try this bad boy off of here. There's not a lot of room between the what you call it, the GoPro camera. It's a new thing for me, you know. It's too fancy. It makes me kind of nervous, to be honest with you. But there's not a lot of room between this and the GoPro camera. So I think it goes like that. Pretty sure. Then we've got this little fancy copper clip that slides down in here that holds that in. And don't drop that, because you'll have to go run to town and spend your gas money again to go get you another one if you're not a plumber. A plumber would be like old Mr. Haney on Green Acres and just have one on the truck, right? Well, you and me ain't plumbers, so I'm gonna try to pull this out a little bit. Just make sure it's, yeah. That works pretty good. Again, I don't know which way it's in there. I think that's the right way. I think that hole was up, but I wouldn't swear to it, because I'm not a swearing type fella. But I used to be. There's still swears that I made back in my 20s that's hovering over in the atmosphere over southern Indiana, but I don't make them anymore. I figured out people look at you a different way when you do that. Alright, we have her back together. Now what I want to do is down in there, you see how this wobbles a little bit? I don't particularly like that, but the straps they have down in there, we kind of had to bend them to get them out, and to get this whole tube out. And when we took this out, and we bent them back, but of course you can never bend them back again the way they were, and you can't get to them to take them off because they put them in. All this went in before the shower was in. But I think I can take a piece of like that multi-purpose, general purpose muffler band, and run around that and run it down and put 2 long screws. There's a block of wood that it's screwed to, and I think if I cut it a little bit short where it don't reach the bottom and put those screws in it and screw it down to where it pulls it down, I believe it'll pull this back tight. So I'm going to try to do that before I go any further, because I don't want this warbling around like that. Alright, stay tuned, we'll be back. Alright, so I did the new strap off camera, and I'm hoping you can see what I did there. And I put those screws in so they tighten up at an angle, so as it slides down it pulls it closer as well to that piece of wood, and that really firmed it up a lot. So there's that. And you can see that it's really firm now. It's in there, it's pretty well centered. So I think we're in good shape. Now we got to slide. This is the stop for the knob that I was talking about. So you slide this on, and then the knob will only turn so far because it's got these stops in it. Inside of it, you can see these little lugs here. It only goes so far. So you don't want that. Right on the Okay, so that's a new knob. It must be for a different kind of stop. Hold on. We've got, there we go, the old knob. I bought a new knob because this one was broken. But it looks like this one may have to get us by. But it's got a different type of stop in it. I didn't notice that, so I'll take this other one back. But if you see here, it's got hot and cold, and the fascia plate here says the same thing, H on this side, C on that side. And then you put this in. Oh, here we go. You gotta put this little washer on first. Alright. And then line up the flats. Yeah. Like so. Put your screw in. It's all the way hot, warm, all the way cold. So we'll get by with that one temporarily until I get that other one exchanged. Now, because I have to get a new screw as well, there's another, let's see, oh, there's a gold screw, a couple of gold screws. Let's see there, that's a HC. There is a gold colored screw that goes in there that I seem to have laid down somewhere. I can't find it, but there's supposed to be two. So I got to get another one. One was missing. I've got to get another one at the hardware store when I exchange the knob. Oh, there it is. There it is. There it is. There it is. Get that lined up. There it is. Man, I was hitting everywhere but where it needed to. And we'll clean all this up. It'll look like brand new or brand used, one or the other. Don't have to be real tight, real crazy. Then, next thing we do is put our knob on. That's pretty tight. Hot. Cold, warm. Oh, the excitement is building. I'm ready to check this out. But I'm very confident that this is going to work now. So what I'm going to do first, before I turn the water on and get the pressure all up again, is I'm going to go ahead and install my on and off valves for the sink faucet, or kitchen sink faucet. I already got them on the bathroom sink, but I've got some ball valves I need to put on the kitchen sink. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that before I turn this on. Okay folks, so I got the shower all back together. I have changed, I put some ball valves in under the sink. I picked up a bunch of tools. You see the ball valves in there. I've got the fan in there because I cut those lines. There's a little bit of water. I vacuumed most of it up, but I just want to dry it up because I don't want any more mold setting up in here than it has to be. But I've got the water pump on. Check for leaks. Don't have any leaks. We're going to test out the shower. I haven't turned it on yet since it got all back together. So Wish us luck. Here goes nothing. Hopefully it's something instead of nothing. But we're getting ready to see. Alright. Alright, there's warm. Turned it to hot. We still have water. Cold, we still have water. Right there, center. Looks like success. The only thing next we need to do, just for further verification, is turn the water heater on, let it heat up, and make sure that, as a fact, that water on turning to the left is actually hot. So I'm going to do that, and I'm not going to record that or nothing. I'm just going to let you know when I turn this back on to do something else. I got to make a pattern to cut a shim for the toilet, and then I'll set the toilet back in and test that out, which that should be fine. It looks like we're on our way. Thanks so much for watching and subscribing. Give us a thumbs up if you think about it. More videos coming out.